hundreds of injuries in Siberia. In November 2013, something similar to what's going on right now, at least in the reporting data, caught the attention of Cheryl Costa, writing the New York Skies UFO column for the Syracuse New Times, and she was reviewing the National UFO Reporting Center database. She noted a dramatic nationwide spike in orange and reddish-orange fireball UFO sightings during the first 2 weeks of November. As of November 11th, the UFO database had logged about 238 reports for the month, which is roughly average in overall volume, but roughly 50 of them, about 20%, were of that fireball variety. Normally, these ranked fourth among roughly 30 categories and only make up about 7% of sightings. Multiple silent objects moving in geese-like formations or single lines, highly maneuverable, apparently under intelligent control. Debunkers pointed to maybe Chinese lanterns or hot air balloons. Many reports didn't fit, however, with speed, formation changes, and sudden disappearances. Costa listed New York cases, reddish-orange objects in triangle formations over Ravenna, groups of orange fireballs over Farmingdale, and other lights and shapes. Case reports of this type went back decades. The 2013 cluster was presented as a clear spike in the data available at the time. Was it meteors, misidentified lanterns, something else? The reports mixed classical fireball language with classic UAP descriptors. In a year of elevated genuine bolide activity like 2026, the parallel is hard to ignore, especially if you consider the Chelyabinsk meteor. Clusters of bright, sometimes oddly behaving luminous objects that swamp the usual statistics.
Okay.
History doesn't repeat
Starting
exactly,
off with landing
but
a
it
70%
often
shot, I feel
rhymes.
blessed. Oh god, I shouldn't shoot near these truck with this angle.
So the strange event in our solar system this cycle is 3I Atlas, the only really unusual thing that happened at the same time as this outbreak. Also cataloged, by the way, as C2025N1 Atlas. Discovered in July 2025 by the Atlas Survey, it is the third confirmed interstellar object after Oumuamua and 2I Borisov. It had a hyperbolic trajectory, an excess velocity of around 58 kilometers per second, and it reached perihelion on October 29, 2025 at about 1.36 astronomical units. In other words, between Earth and Mars orbits. It never really got that close to the sun, and it's been receding ever since, but it hasn't reached the orbit of Saturn yet.
98%?
Webb, Hubble Space Telescope, and ground-based telescopes, and even
I feel like
spacecraft
anything that isn't
near Mars
100%
and Jupiter
chance
have
shot, I'm just
observed
gonna
it
miss. It doesn't
intensely.
matter.
It is ancient, or at least that's what astronomers think. Isotropic measurements, especially deuterium, roughly 30 times higher than typical solar system comets. As a matter of fact, it has deuterium levels higher than any object in the solar system and most objects in the universe. Plus, carbon ratios point to formation 10 to 12 billion years ago in a cold, dense environment.
Overwatch
during
coming
the
through, good.
universe's cosmic
Wait, is that person gonna... Oh
However,
my
we're
god, I
gonna
was so
find out
worried they were
there are
dead.
some serious problems with that theory.
Oh.
It carries a chemical fingerprint unlike anything that formed around our sun.
Right.
That alone makes it a messenger from a different epoch and a different star system. But the details of its behavior changed as it passed through our neighborhood, and this raised sharper questions. A recent peer-reviewed analysis assessed mass loss and radius change based on observed production rates of volatiles and refractories, both pre- and post-perihelion. The conclusion: from gas alone, 3I Atlas lost the equivalent of roughly 1.3 to 5.5 meters worth of thickness on its surface during its solar system passage, on the order of 1 billion to 10 billion kilograms. That sounds like a lot, but it's a fraction of 1% of its total mass. If you include dust to gas ratios, it might push the eroded depth higher, but measured in meters, it might be a bit over 10 meters worth of thickness lost in optimistic cases. Not wholesale disruption, not meters thick layers peeled away in a dramatic event.
And how it happens,
Yet,
but it's
after perihelion,
people.
Webb detected substantial methane production. Methane is highly volatile. It should sublimate easily. Pre-perihelion observations, including Webb, the Sphere X Space Telescope, and others, did not show comparable methane. Astronomers have suggested that solar heating near perihelion cracked open deeper layers, releasing methane that had been buried.
85?
But if
Okay,
the
yeah.
object only
Missed an
lost a few
85
meters
already.
of outer
Okay.
crust, how did it crack open to expose deep material? Furthermore, we saw no evidence of a significant event happening to this object either before, during, or after perihelion. The outer layers of an ancient interstellar body should have been processed by galactic cosmic rays for billions of years.
Oh?
Cosmic ray chemistry tends to destroy
69%
or alter
chance.
volatiles like methane
Nice.
in the outer tens of meters. Large quantities of pristine methane surviving or appearing suddenly is not just unexpected, it should be impossible. And then there's the nickel content. Optical spectroscopy detected nickel vapor, sometimes with ratios relative to iron or cyanide that stand out compared with thousands of solar
Okay,
system
hitting
comets.
long-range shot
In
gap.
other words, 3i Atlas didn't just have nickel, it had a lot of nickel, even compared to comets that formed in our solar system. If 3i Atlas formed around an ancient, low metallicity star, where did the nickel enrichment come from? These are the kinds of details that refuse to sit quietly inside a standard cometary model.
Volk says I am to obey. Headed there now.
Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb has written extensively about 3i Atlas. As many of you probably know, I'm feuding with him a bit, but I still think that the man is right about most things. He has compiled a growing list of anomalies. The retrograde trajectory aligned to within about 5 degrees of the ecliptic plane, which is a low probability for a random interstellar arrival. Fine-tuned timing that brought it relatively close to Mars and Jupiter while remaining poorly observable from Earth at its perihelion. A March 2026 perigove distance extremely close to Jupiter's Hill radius, the boundary where Jupiter's gravity dominates over the Sun's with remarkable precision, plus a tightly collimated, symmetrical system of sunward jets that persisted and even wobbled in ways that maintained anti-tail geometry before and after the 16-degree gravitational deflection at perihelion. Extreme polarization, the high deuterium I've already talked about, the nickel over iron signature, which is reminiscent of industrial alloys, and the non-gravitational acceleration without clear evidence of catastrophic breakup. Actually, the object didn't
83%.
lose much mass at all.
Oh,
and yet it
she
had
missed another
substantial
83. Are you kidding me?
non-gravitational acceleration after perihelion. Loeb has ranked the object relatively high on his scale of potential technosignatures. He has floated the possibility of macroscopic, non-volatile objects in the antitail, or even the idea that the object could release devices near Jupiter's Lagrange
90%,
points.
okay.
These remain hypotheses, of course. Mainstream interpretation.
So I missed an
still
83 and then an
treats
86% chance on the
Atlas as a
same turn.
natural, albeit
Holy.
extreme interstellar comet. But the
Thankfully, it's just
accumulation
against
of
Lost, and it
oddities
does
is
not
what
matter.
makes the object scientifically valuable, and for some of us, impossible to ignore. And speaking of the antitail, after perihelion, there were intervals when 3i Atlas displayed a genuine, massive antitail, material extending sunward, and at times it lacked a conventional dust tail altogether, an antitail with no tail. An antitail can be a perspective effect, but analyses of the high-resolution imaging suggest a real sunward component of larger fragments capable of resisting solar radiation pressure and the solar wind somehow. And here's the problem with the mass loss numbers. If only a few meters of outer crust were lost, according to this peer-reviewed paper, the sublimation and fragmentation process should have produced a broad-sized distribution. Tiny grains that formed a conventional tail pushed anti-sunward by radiation pressure, and larger pieces. But the total dominance of the anti-tail, with little or no classic cometary tail, suggests that there's a selective release of larger, more robust objects rather than typical fragmentation, something that shouldn't happen naturally.
Hold as long as you can. We will be there.
So if you put the pieces together, a non-natural hypothesis becomes tempting, even if it remains far outside the consensus. Let's walk through the technical constraints that make a purely natural explanation increasingly strained, and then examined what an engineered alternative would require. First of all, the mass loss budget. Peer-reviewed assessment based on all reported volatile and refractory production rates conclude that gas sublimation alone removed the equivalent of 1.28 to 5.53 meters of surface material from 3I Atlas during its entire passage through the solar system, anywhere from 1 billion to 10 billion kilograms, or 0.12 to 0.53% of the object's estimated mass, assuming it's about 1.3 kilometers in diameter. Now consider the methane. Webb detected methane only after perihelion, with molecular production rates reaching 13.7% and later 27% of the water production rate. Methane is hypervolatile. Its pure ice sublimation temperature is 30 to 40 degrees Kelvin, far lower than that of carbon dioxide, 80 degrees Kelvin, or H2O, 180 degrees Kelvin. Therefore, pre-perihelion observations, including Webb and Sphere-X spectrometry, should have shown a methane signal, and yet it didn't, even though carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide were present. In a natural layered nucleus, the outermost meters should have been depleted of such a mobile species long before the object entered the inner solar system. Moreover, galactic cosmic ray processing over billions of years is expected to alter or destroy volatiles like methane in the outer 15 to 20 meters of an interstellar body. If only a few meters of crust were lost, the sudden appearance of substantial methane doesn't make a great deal of sense. No spectroscopic or imaging evidence indicates a catastrophic cracking event large enough to expose deep reservoirs of methane while still limiting total mass loss to meters. The non-gravitational acceleration observed near perihelion further constrains the outgassing geometry. It requires directed momentum transfer, and yet the nucleus remained intact. The anti-tail morphology adds another constraint. The Hubble Space Telescope, both before and after perihelion, showed a persistent sunward extension that, after geometric correction, is consistent with a collimated structure of large particles. Radiation pressure and solar wind drag efficiently accelerate micron-sized grains anti-sunward. Particles capable of forming a stable anti-tail must be macroscopic, tens to hundreds of microns, or even larger, as much as a decimeter in diameter. Nickel vapor detections compound the anomaly. Optical spectroscopy recorded nickel lines, occasionally with nickel and iron ratios elevated relative to typical solar system comets, and in some epochs reminiscent.
You guys want to know a random fact I learned when reading the Tanya the Evil comments
Ancient
about that enemy?
metallicity formation environment should not provide.
Apparently, in the manga light novel,
these technical tensions
she's way more overpowered than she is right now. Like, she doesn't need flight gear; she can just fly. Can make like energy blades and like all kinds of crazy shit.
Hollowed, reinforced, or augmented into a delivery platform. The outer few meters could function as ablative or cosmic ray shielding, deliberately limited in mass loss so that the primary payload remains protected until a programmed thermal or radiative trigger near perihelion.
I knew they were replicating a World War, but I didn't really quite get that they, like, Tanya's literally fighting for Nazi Germany.
A deliberate isotropic
there was
signature,
I mean, the whole fatherland thing kind of gives it
Yeah,
away.
I know, but like I forgot or something. But I'm just watching it. I'm like, damn. So this is like what if and like,
a swarm of discrete
is this gonna?
units
Oh, I thought it was two.
No, it's World War. It's the world setting is essentially
to shrug
World War
off solar
I
radiation
Germany.
pressure
Okay.
and capable
setting.
of surviving atmospheric entry long enough to deposit organics, volatiles, or catalytic materials. That explains what this object is in the Japanese footage. The organic materials being released at the end of the re-entry process. Now keep in mind, only a minority of the 2026 fireballs need be artificial.
Steve Reaper with a sniper rifle misses, but
ordinary meteors.
Homeboy with the shotgun is on point.
The excess of large events is what matters. And targeting also becomes geometrically elegant. The trajectory's close approach to Jupiter's hill sphere within a fraction of a percent of the hill radius of approximately 53.5 million kilometers places the object at the boundary where material can be deposited into stable or quasi-stable orbits around Jupiter with minimal energy.
I hate that you guys haven't watched Bleach, so I can talk to you about it.
Internal water layers or Callisto's ice
watch
shell
it all when it's
should
done,
receive
because I feel
substantial
like-
amounts of organics and
Like, the pacing is
reductants.
good,
On
but
Earth, the same
I fucking hate
chemistry is
waiting.
already abundant,
Especially
so
for
the
Bleach.
delivery might
Oh, I mean, I
serve
can
as a
understand.
long-term
And now I'm pissed I have to
evolutionary
wait because shit is just so
modulation. In other
peak and
words,
it's
3i
going
Atlas
like
might have
so
been
off the
messing with
rails,
evolution on our own planet.
but in
Now,
like the
keep in
best
mind,
possible
none
way.
of this is proven. Every anomaly still
Oh, yeah.
possesses possible natural explanations that have not been fully ruled out. Yet the combination of all of these things forms a coherent technical challenge to
Like
the
a guts pose
common
was hit by a
engineered
character you
seeding
wouldn't think would be
platform
hitting
that
it.
uses a natural interstellar
And it just
body
makes it so
with
much
both
better.
camouflage and structural core satisfies
And when I say a
the
guts pose, like the him like
constraints with
face
fewer
down with
ad
blood
hoc
on his face, like
assumptions.
looking up and like anger.
Already seen the screenshot of it.
Oh, you know who it is? Oh,
We are living
it's so
Yeah,
good,
I don't wanna
dude.
be
period of
about shit
fireball
already.
activity whose
It's
cause is still
fucking-
being debated.
Oh.
Reporting bias, a real uptick in the meteoroid environment, or something more exotic tied to the passage of an interstellar object. Whether 3i Atlas is a natural relic from the early universe or something more deliberate, the observations themselves are extraordinary. So keep watching the databases, keep reading the papers, and keep an open, critical mind. The solar system just received a visitor that may be older than our sun, a lot older. The least we can do is pay attention to what is left behind in the data and perhaps in our atmosphere. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to provide you with some links to the mass loss papers and Avi Loeb's discussions as well. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and also please hype this video, and please also consider supporting this channel on Patreon. It makes a very big difference to what I'm going to be able to do in the future. All the details are in the description. Thanks again, and until next time, stay angry about space.
Roger that. Reapers are always vigilant. Moving out. I'm on it.
Come get some. Overwatch.
I'm on it.
In 1922, an archaeologist named Herbert Weld Blundell pulled a small clay prism out of the ground in southern Iraq. It was about 8 inches tall, it had 4 sides, and it was covered in cuneiform writing. When scholars took it back to Oxford and started reading it, they couldn't make sense of what it was saying. It's called the Sumerian King List, and it was basically a government record.
What the hell did I just see right now? Are you kidding?
For how long, and the first
Average
line says,
Overwatch turn.
"After the kingship
Only
was
land
ascended
1
from
out of
heaven, the kingship
6
was
shots.
in
Okay, it was
Eridu.
2 out of 6,
The
but
Sumerians
still.
considered Eridu the first city ever built. Their creation traditions describe it as the place where civilization began. The rulers came from the sky. That's how the document begins, and then it lists 8 kings whose reign lengths don't make a ton of sense. The first king, Alulim of Eridu, reigned for 28,800 years. His successor ruled for 36,000 years.
And now your mortal shell double.
200 years. Altogether, there were 8 kings with 241,200 years of combined rule.
I just saw him go into mortal shell on Steam.
Everything after that was completely different. Those reign length numbers have been covered a lot, but what almost nobody mentions is that 7 of those 8 kings had advisors. 7 beings sent by the god Enki from somewhere beneath the earth. Each served as advisor to one of the pre-flood rulers.
Yo, she is a sniper with that shotgun.
But the 8th and final pre-flood king, Abaratutu, had no Apkalu advisor, which is its own strange detail that nobody can really explain. But the 7 that did serve brought with them a purpose that was recorded across multiple independent cuneiform sources. And that's to give humanity everything civilization will be built on, like writing, mathematics, agriculture, law, architecture, and how to read the movements of the sky. The first of these beings was called Uana. A Babylonian historian, Berosus, who was writing around 290 BC, described what Uana looked like when he arrived. He came from the sea with the body of a fish, a human head underneath the fish's head, and human feet below the tail. Every day he came out of the Persian Gulf and taught humanity, and every night he went back into the water. Berosus wrote something important about what Uana did. He said that since Uana came, nothing further had ever been discovered. Everything civilization would ever be built on, mathematics, writing, agriculture, law, the arts of building, was handed over in full.
Dude, she cannot miss with her shotgun. It's insane.
Came out of the sea every morning and went back to it at night. 7 of these beings, each paired with one of the first 7 pre-flood kings in the Uruk list of kings and sages, a cuneiform tablet dated to 164 BC. Their names also appear in the Neo-Assyrian ritual series called Bit Masiri and in the writings of Berosus. These are separate documents across centuries, all recording the same beings doing the same roles.
Just
Their
move
images
carefully.
are carved into the walls of Assyrian palaces. Figures wearing huge fish as cloaks with the fish's head sitting on top of their own. Winged figures with the heads of birds. Human-looking robed sages. Also, in every depiction across every culture that recorded them, they carry the same 2 objects, a small bucket and a pine cone. After the flood, 4 Apkalu appeared in the text, but these were part human and part whatever the originals were. And the text described them doing things that angered the gods. Whatever those first 7 advisors were, whatever came after the flood was a diminished version. And back to the reign lengths. They make a little more sense once you know what you're looking at. All 8 pre-flood king reigns are exact multiples of 144. And the probability of that being random is less than 1 in 10 billion. 28,000 divided by 144 equals 200 exactly. 36,000 divided by 144 equals 250 exactly. 43,200 divided by 144 equals 300 exactly. The Sumerians built their entire mathematical system around the number 60, which is where we get 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, and 360 degrees in a circle. They developed that specifically because it divides cleanly into the cycles of the sky. The units they used to record the pre-flood rains were called SARs, with each lasting 3,600 years. And they were the same units used to calculate planetary movements, predict eclipses, and track the stars. The first king's reign of 28,800 years corresponds to 1 complete precessional cycle. Precession is the slow wobble of the Earth's axis. In roughly 26,000 years, the axis completes 1 full rotation relative to the stars, and the night sky returns to exactly where it started. Ancient astronomers called this the Great Year, and the King's List appears to be using this as a unit of time rather than lifespan. So what looks like a list of how long people lived may actually be a record of ages, each reign representing 1 full turn of the sky, with the flood marking the end of the last one. After the flood, the King's List continues, but the numbers are completely different. The first post-flood king ruled for 1,200 years, the next for 960, then 900, then 840, then 720. Falling with each generation until the list reaches kings who rule for centuries, then decades, then years. By the time it reaches rulers that show up in other historical records,
you guys wouldn't want to
are normal, the same lifespans that people are living today.
Play Power.
Genesis follows an identical pattern. Before the flood, Adam lived for 930 years, Methuselah for 969 years, Noah for 950 years. After the flood, lifespans started declining. Abraham lives 175 years.
I think the 9th.
And it kept going.
I don't remember. That's just the date I'm pulling out of
Scholars agree that Genesis drew
That
from
sounds right.
Mesopotamian sources and that the Sumerian king list predates the biblical text by centuries. The same memory moved from one tradition into the other, and what they both preserved is the same moment, when whatever existed before the flood ended and what we call human history began. The same thing shows up across cultures and continents that should have had no contact with each other. The Vedic texts describe 4 great ages, with lifespans running at thousands of years in the earliest and declining with each successive age, until the current one where people live a century at most. Ancient Egypt described a time when gods walked among humans, followed by diminished beings, followed by human history. The Greeks recorded a golden age, followed by silver, bronze, and iron, each shorter lived than the one before. Plato described the earliest people having direct contact with divine knowledge that was progressively lost over generations. They all preserved the memory of a world where something existed at scale that simply doesn't exist anymore, followed by a long decline to what we are now. And that number, 28,800, is where this meshes with modern science. Today's measurements put their precessional cycle at 25,772 years. Plato recorded it as 25,920 years. Neither of those are 28,800. The gap is about 3,000 years, which is roughly 10%. And the one solid explanation for this connects it to the Younger Dryas impact, the cosmic event that struck the ice sheet over North America about 12,900 years ago. When something that large hits and ice sheets collapse, the redistribution of mass on Earth's surface changes how fast the planet wobbles on its axis. The proposal is that before the impact, Earth's precessional cycle ran at 28,800 years. After the impact, it shifted toward what we're measuring today. If that's right, the King's List describes a sky that no longer exists, Earth's relationship to the stars before something hit the planet and changed it. The King's List may be recording the aftermath in the language of ancient kingship, with the flood marking the exact moment the old sky ended and the new one began. The Atrahasis epic is the Sumerian flood text, and it actually gives a reason for the flood. The gods held a council because humanity had become too numerous and the noise had become intolerable. The text reads, "The earth screamed like a bull, and the deity, startled by its ferocity, heard the commotion. Humanity's clamor has gotten too loud for me, and its bustle has deprived me of sleep. Cut off the supply to the cities." The flood was a council decision. The population had grown beyond what they wanted, and they reduced it. The flood wasn't sent as punishment for sin, it was sent because humanity had gotten too large and too loud. So the world before the flood, where 7 non-human beings handed civilization to humanity, where kings ruled for precessional cycles, where the sky wobbled at a different rate. The council decided that it had grown beyond what they wanted, and they ended it. And what came after that is us, working with the knowledge that we've been given before the reduction. The Weld Blundell Prism has been sitting in a museum in Oxford since 1922. The math checks out by calculation, and it describes a world that already ended before any of us were born. So, 7 non-human beings gave humanity everything civilization is built on before the flood and then disappeared. Barossa said that since their first appearance, nothing further had been discovered. The other 6 advisors after the first one must have been managers of some sort to make sure that things went as planned. But apparently they didn't do a good job at noise control and pissed off the gods enough to flood the planet. Also, if they weren't human, what do you think they were? And then after the flood, they were described as hybrids, and then they went away, and then it was just us. Kind of a crazy sequence of events, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate your time. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, like, leave those comments. I love reading about this stuff and reading your insights and how you think about this stuff. It's very interesting to me. So, thank you so much. Until next time, I'll talk to you later.
I'm testing your Power World speedrun theory.
I started doing it, but then I'd get tilted while doing it.
I feel like if you're going for like that Mamaranth quick capture, that runs into you might end up doing that shit for 3 hours before you actually get you can actually play.
No, that Mamarist quick capture strat is only if you're doing the the first boss speed run, because what I do is you're able to you kill yourself, you respawn up north, you go to the level 50 island, you pick up pal spheres over there that are level 50 or whatever pal spheres, and you get a bunch of gold, then you teleport back, and then now your spheres are actually 25% or higher chance to catch the Mamarist, and you have 7 or 8, so Like, I got that down. And then after that, so I'm trying to hit the Relaxosaurus effigies first to get the EXP bonus before I go out and start capturing things. And then I realized, okay, to do that, I need to, like, I can get the one on the high-level island that I go to get the spheres, but then after that, I need to get a flying mount. Then you go back to the start, find a night owl, get that, craft, like I'm seeing how to do it.
I'm ready. My turn on watch. Scanning. Got it covered.
I just need to put more time into it.
Overwatch.
Like, and actually just like, I'm trying to like, instead of just playing it through, I feel like, oh, this is slow for my run, but it's like, that's not what it's about. Like, just seeing how fast I could do it and then just keep refining it, right? But
Moving to Overwatch. My watch begins.
Yeah, I guess speedrunning is kind of hard, but
I am watching. Come get some.
Speedrunning is kind of hard.
it takes a lot of like practice.
Scanning. No one
Yeah.
will get some.
Covering now.
by the way, did you go back to the fucking Grisha thing where that what we could do that chap where you got the second axe and dagger?
Did I go back there?
Yeah.
No. Is it like, does shit change there? That's kind of cool.
Did you buy the key off that guy to open like to buy that Grisha?
The Grisha Stone or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't like unleash. Like, do you unleash him or something?
I opened the door.
Oh, like the cage door, or
Yeah.
shit? Did he fucking go on a spree?
That camp is dead and there's two Grishas standing here out and about, like the Grisha pup. Apparently the Grisha's like dad showed up.
Got it covered.
Oh shit!
I'm on it.
And they're just standing here, but they're not aggressive. You can just like talk to it. It's like growls excitedly, but all the fucking things here are dead.
That seems good though. That sounds nice.
You did a good deed.
Yeah, it killed the second camp of whatever the hell these things were.
Well, they shouldn't have put it in a cage.
I wonder if that actually changed anything, or if this happens regardless. Like the adult shows up, and if you didn't save the let the pup out, like
maybe
they're
they're not,
hostile,
like,
you know.
maybe it'd be aggro you or something.
Yeah, like maybe this is like a boss fight if you have to fight two Grishas at once if you didn't do that.
That's kind of fucking crazy. That would be cool. I'll go over there in a bit.
Now, always vigilant. On Overwatch.
I will not waver. Eyes peeled.
Okay, where the hell are these zombies?
What do you get when you combine a bored teenage shepherd boy who lost his goat and a dry Arabian desert? Believed that they were living in the final days before a 40-year cosmic war, a war that they had already planned out down to the trumpet signals. They were, by pretty much any modern definition, a doomsday cult. And what actually happened to them wasn't the war that they spent generations preparing for. But thanks to this group of desert dwellers, we now have access to some of the oldest manuscripts of the Bible that have ever been found.
Like, there's still some
Today,
zombies on the
we are
map.
going
Where the
deep
hell are
on
they?
The Essenes, the community living at Qumran where they lived, and what's actually sitting inside of those scrolls, who these people were, what they believed, and what ended them. And more importantly, what got left behind in those caves for 2,000 years.
Good to go.
My name is Nels, and the story underneath this discovery is honestly wilder than the actual discovery itself. So if you enjoy this kind of deep dive into the weird parts of the Bible and history and all that, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It really does help out the channel. But without any further ado, let's get into it. When the word first got out that these scrolls might really be this old, plenty of serious scholars didn't really buy it, because manuscripts surviving in that kind of condition from that far back seemed too good to be true. And more than one expert assumed that they were looking at a clever, fairly recent forgery, as it was so common in the day. It took a combination of paleography, which is comparing the handwriting against other securely dated inscriptions, and eventually radiocarbon testing on the material itself to settle the argument for good. The skepticism wasn't unreasonable. It's just, at that time, the impossible claim actually turned out to be true. And before we get into what they actually believed, this group called the Essenes, it actually helps to know who is actually being described here, because 3 separate ancient writers all describe basically the same group independently of one another, all within a few decades. The first one of those is Josephus. He was a Jewish historian, and he actually claims that he trained briefly with them as a young man before deciding that it wasn't really for him. He describes a rigorous, almost militarily structure, communal property, nobody owns anything individually, strict daily schedules, ritual washing before and after meals, actually I don't know about after, but definitely before, and an initiation process that could literally take years before you were fully trusted within the group's inner teachings. Philo of Alexandria, writing around the same period, describes something a little similar, that they were men living together, sharing everything, refusing to make weapons, refusing to own slaves, working the land themselves, or trading and pooling everything that they earned. Philo goes further than Josephus on the daily rhythm of it. They were up before dawn for prayer, they were out to work the fields or craft until the midday, and then a community meal eaten in total silence, more work through the afternoon.
Where are
with
they?
No slaves in sight, of course, and on principle, since Philo says that they considered slaveholding itself a form of injustice, regardless of how literally completely normal it was to everyone else around them. And then there's Pliny the Elder, who was a Roman writer who wasn't particularly interested in Jewish religious life, really, but he's writing a general geography and natural history of the region, and he mentions, almost as like an aside, that a group living on the west shore of the Dead Sea,
I can't even
above a town called
trigger
En-Gedi,
exploding that
no
thing.
women,
Okay.
no money, and nothing for company but palm trees. That's about it. So just some random geographical detail from a guy cataloging plants and rock formations. Except it was
It's
that
weird I'm not even
location,
getting like
the
movement
west
signals.
shore above En-Gedi, that puts this group almost exactly where Qumran actually sits. So these 3 different writers are explaining 3 different reasons for writing, and they all land on the same picture.
Wait, that's not even going to
There's an
trigger a
organized,
lost swarm? Or does it need to blow up first?
intentionally separate community living out in the desert.
Oh,
on
maybe there's
purpose.
just
Once the scrolls actually
no more.
turned up
All
in
right, well,
1947,
did what I
in
can.
caves
I'm
right
just
next to
gonna leave them.
a site matching this description, the pieces fit together fast. This was them. This was the Essenes, the ruins at Qumran, and the scrolls in the caves around it are almost certainly the same story, told from 3 different angles. So what if you were strange enough to wanting to join this community? Well, Josephus lays out the rather brutal process. In year 1, you live alongside the community following their rules, but you're actually not one of them yet. You're handed a small hatchet, a loincloth, and a white garment, and that's pretty much it. That's your Essene starter kit. If you make it through that year without bowing out, you are all of a sudden allowed to start using their purification waters, but unfortunately you're still locked out of the actual community, so no sharing meals, you don't really belong here. 2 more full years of that, and only after a total of 3 years does anyone let you take the oath, and the oath itself is nothing to joke about. You must have piety towards God, justice towards other people, honesty in all your dealings, and a sworn commitment to protect the group's secret teachings, which we'll talk about later. Also, to guard the names of the angels, even under torture if it came to that. So 3 years of proving yourself for the privilege of finally being trusted with what these people actually believed. And this wasn't some fringe group that nobody in Jerusalem have heard of either. Josephus even mentions an actual gate in Jerusalem city wall called the
Good
Gate
for
of the
14
Essenes.
days.
It was actually on the southwest side of the city, near what archaeologists have since found a cluster of ritual baths
Shredder.
matching the community's obsession with purity. A doomsday sect convinced the Jerusalem establishment was hopelessly corrupt, and Jerusalem still named a gate after them, which tells you that they weren't some rumor floating around the desert. People in the capital, Jerusalem, knew exactly who they were, knew where to find them, and apparently respected them enough, or feared them enough, to put their name on one of their walls.
Her aim was
And I also
on
assumed going
point,
into this
so I like
that
her as a sniper.
total celibacy was just a settled fact about the group. Well, it turns out Josephus actually complicates that. He describes the main order of these groups as celibate, avoiding marriage entirely because, in his words, women couldn't be trusted to stay faithful to just one man, which says a lot more about first century Romans' assumptions than it does about anything that these people actually believed. But he also mentions briefly a second order within the same movement that did marry for the sole purpose of continuing the species. And even then, the wives were tested actually for 3 years before the marriage was considered official. So I don't know what these women were thinking about joining, but. And the husbands weren't intimate with the pregnant wife once her condition became evident. So even the exception to the celibacy rule came wrapped in the same multi-year prohibition this entire community ran, on for everything else. There was actually a young Essie named Menahem. Once ran into a boy on his way to school and greeted him as the king of the Jews. A strange thing to say to a kid, and it seemed like nothing.
Oh damn! I got in between the eyes.
But that boy turned out to be Herod the Great. Decades later, once Herod actually had the throne, he remembered it, called Menahem in, and asked him how to predict how long that his reign would last. And from that point on, Josephus says that Herod held the whole community in honor. So he even exempted every Essene in his kingdom from the mandatory loyalty oath that every other subject had to swear. A famously paranoid, famously murderous king, and the one group that he trusted enough to let skip swearing loyalty to him was actually a doomsday cult that was living out in the desert. So, if this was a doomsday cult, then what exactly did they believe that made them a doomsday cult? Well, the doomsday cult label is a good one. But before we get to what they believed, though, there's a name that keeps showing up in these texts that they have here without a real explanation. And I think that is worth addressing for a second without rushing past it. And this figure was called the Teacher of Righteousness. It was the founding figure behind this.
Yeah, I'm gonna have an engineer do this. I need to resist thing.
Not even once anywhere in like all the scrolls. But we know that he's persecuted, he's exalted, and he's quoted as if scripture. But the texts themselves seem to deliberately withhold his actual identity, referring to him only by that title. Scholars have spent decades proposing candidates, one of which being maybe a rejected priestly claimant from the
Oh my, improved assault rifles?
An otherwise unknown Zadokite priest pushed out of Jerusalem when the wrong family took over the high priesthood. The point is, nobody's cracked it. So they even had their own origin story, and it's got a strange bit of numerology built into it. One of their founding documents, the Damascus document, says that the group essentially emerged 390 years after the fall of Jerusalem to Babylon. And for 20
Over
years
here,
after that,
contact.
they wandered like blind men, hoping to find the right path before God finally raised up their teacher of righteousness to actually lead them. 390 years isn't a random number as well. It's grabbed straight out of the book of Ezekiel in the Old Testament, where the prophet is told to lie on his side for that many days to represent the guilt of Israel. So this community was
Okay, well, I already took my intel, so I guess I have no choice.
Historical origins, that their own founding fulfilled a prophetic countdown that nobody else even knew what was going on.
Operation
Their theology was
Wolf
built on
Prince.
something called
Oh, wow.
total dualism. Every single person in their worldview belonged to one of two camps. You were either the lot of light or you were the lot of darkness. And that assignment happened before you were even born. That was so they were kind of like Calvinists, I guess. I don't know. But this wasn't a community that thought people wandered between good and evil depending on their choices of the day. You were assigned a side permanently, and your whole life was just that played out. It sounds weird as I say it, but their disagreement with the Jerusalem religious establishment went well past the theology, though, all the way down to stuff like the calendar itself, which sounds like a minor detail until you realize what that actually meant. The Jerusalem temple ran on what is called a lunar calendar. This community used a 364-day solar calendar instead, which meant that their sacred festival dates almost never lined up with Jerusalem's. Passover, the Day of Atonement, all of it were on completely different days depending on whose calendar that you actually followed. And that disagreement wasn't just academic either. One of the scrolls, a commentary on the book of Habakkuk, describes the group's founder, the teacher of righteousness guy.
Okay, I mean, this is a pretty strong group.
Rival named the Wicked Priest, which was likely a Jerusalem high priest from the Hasmonean line, as I said briefly before. And the text specifies exactly when the attack happened, on the Day of Atonement. Their Day of Atonement on their calendar, which on the Wicked Priest calendar was just an ordinary day. So he may have deliberately timed the attack for a moment when the community would have been fasting, vulnerable, and of course observing what they considered is the holiest day of the year. Their expectation for how all of this would actually resolve wasn't even centered on some savior figure. Some of their texts describe two separate messiahs showing up, not just one. There was a priestly messiah descended from Aaron, and then a royal messiah descended from David, each one of them handling a different half of the job. Most messianic expectation in this era and since forth centers on a single figure doing everything, i.e. Jesus. This community was apparently expecting a pair. There's a reason why this community read their own conflicts into ancient prophecy so easily. It sounds rather strange to think about why they would, but it comes down to a particular interpretive method that they called Pesher. Their approach to a prophet like Habakkuk went a lot further than, here's a general warning for future generations. Habakkuk wrote these words down centuries earlier, but God never actually let them understand what they meant, and the real meaning stayed hidden until it got revealed to one person and to one person only, who just so happened to be their teacher of righteousness. The commentary says this almost word for word, that God commanded Habakkuk to write down what was coming, but didn't make it known to him that it would happen, and it was only their teacher, of righteousness who was given the actual key to unlock it. Under that logic, an ancient prophecy about a foreign army invading Israel gets read line by line as being about Rome invading their own community's world in their own
Good, I got
generation.
resistance.
So they believed that they were the actual reason that large parts of scripture had been written down in the first place. So that's what's kind of going on here.
Run up here. He still has another move to run away. Reposition if it's bad.
Sound familiar, I guess? But by the time you actually get to their actual doomsday material, none of this is coming out of nowhere. For example, the War Scroll 1QM, one of the original 7 scrolls found in the first cave, lays out in great military detail a 40-year war between what it calls the Sons of Light and then the Sons of Darkness. The Sons of Light are this community, plus all the tribes that are loyal to them, fighting alongside the angel Michael himself. In the Sons of Darkness
everyone's just gonna miss. Why would they hit?
Israel's traditional enemies, and the Kittim, which almost every scholar reads as a coded reference to Rome, commanded
Even
by
he missed.
an angelic figure named Belial.
That's crazy.
And it actually reads kind of like an actual battle plan rather than vague end times poetry. It specifies how wide the ranks should stand and how many columns deep. 1,000 men to form a formation with different priests blowing trumpets and calls timed to the exact
Well,
moment
that
of
was
the
great, though, because now my resistance fighters got
cavalry,
a
et cetera,
free go in on
and
them.
then there are also weapon specifications. There's a total of 6 engagements
As
happen,
a shot.
and
Oh,
after
you
all
have a
6,
shot? Oh, yeah,
the score is
84%.
tied,
Snipe him,
battles each.
sniper.
And then in the 7th and final battle, the text says that God himself steps in and directly finishes it. Belial and every angel and army under him are destroyed for good. So, somewhere in this community, there was a guy whose entire job was designing the trumpet signal chart for a war against literal demons, and he took it, exactly as seriously as you take planning a real one, because as far as he was concerned, this battle was real. But the war on this,
Or Giga Blasting Brad.
or the war rather, wasn't the only thing
Nice.
this community thought heaven and earth actually touched. Among the fragments is a set of texts called the Songs of Sabbath Sacrifice. There was actually 13 of them, one for each of the year's first 13 Sabbaths, and they're not addressed to human worshippers at all. Their liturgy for
Nice. Oh, okay, come on, you could have hit that. You hit, though? That's what I'm talking about. This is going really good. Having the patrol enemy get aggroed and then the resistance fighters get to just blast them.
Whether Jerusalem's priests knew it or not. If you've watched any of the videos I've done on the Divine Council, this is going to sound like somewhat of a familiar idea. The idea that the Heavenly Council and the Heavenly Temple functioning as the original one, that's just like that the earthly one is just a copy of, more or less. But the community apparently took that idea and ran with it about as far as it can go. If their calendar didn't match Jerusalem's, and their priesthood didn't answer to Jerusalem's, then maybe their worship was the one actually lining up with what was happening in the real temple. The one in heaven, the one Jerusalem's priests had almost lost the point on entirely. So, when this community sang, or worshipped...
Cut him down. I don't have to worry about him getting shot because the aliens will basically always choose to go after civilians.
Were happening on the same liturgical calendar.
Where there was only one.
In 2 different locations and one of the locations was them. And while all that material was being written, the same community was also maintaining an intensely detailed rulebook for ordinary meetings. The community rules spell out the penalties for things like interrupting someone while they're speaking, dozing off during a meeting, or spitting in front of the group. So you have a doomsday cult gearing up for a 40-year literal war against demons, who are also keeping a punishment
That
chart
is giga
for
lucky.
bad manners in different meetings. Every indication in the text says that they were preparing for this war rather literally. So that's kind of who the Essenes were, but the real question that I want to answer is, what made it out of those caves and down to us? Well, it was almost everything. Every book in the Hebrew Bible, except for Esther, shows up somewhere across the 11 caves. Some of it in small fragments, some of it nearly whole. And it actually helps break down what almost 1,000 documents means, because it's not one kind of thing repeated 1,000 times. It's 3 or 4 very different kinds of material that happen to end
Alright,
up
let's see
in
how
the
this
same
goes.
set of caves.
Just
Roughly
dumps
a quarter
activity.
of it is scripture, the biblical text that I had mentioned. Another chunk of it, smaller but enormous in what it tells us, is this community's own sectarian writing. Like the War Scroll, the Community Rule, the Habakkuk commentary, which I had talked about. Documents written by and for the people actually
it's
living
this way.
at
I don't know why I got all
describing
turned
their own
around.
rules and their own war. But the largest single category, more than either of
But I'm not
those,
turned around,
is
okay.
what scholars usually lump together as the apocryphal and pseudepigraphal texts, meaning Jewish religious writing that was clearly being read, copied, and taken seriously by somebody in this period, that never made it into the Hebrew Bible, and this wasn't, and wasn't written by this community either. For example, multiple copies of the Book of Enoch showed up in these caves. More copies than actually some biblical books got, interestingly enough. The Book
You're
of
gonna
Jubilees
snipe a
shows up
civilian?
constantly too, which
Really
is a
cool.
retelling of Genesis and Exodus with its own calendar system baked in, which tells you something about why this community liked it so much.
So there's the two groups, two pods that are left.
Correct. You have books like Tobit, Ben Sirah, other wisdom and prophetic material that Second Temple Jews clearly valued, even though later Jewish and most Protestant traditions eventually left it out of the canon entirely. But that middle category is arguably the biggest single discovery buried in all of this. Proof that the boundary of which books counted as scripture wasn't figured out yet. In texts like Enoch, which most people have never even heard of, or especially read today, were sitting on the same shelf as the book of Isaiah for the people actually living in these caves. So, word of Cave 1's discovery spread fast enough that both Bedouin searchers and organized archaeological teams started
I'll go with the right group first.
combing the surrounding cliffs for more, and then in between 1949 and 1956, 10 additional caves turned up with scroll material, some found by accident, some found because people were now actively racing each other to get there first. But not all 11 caves held the same kind of material either. Cave 1...
I mean, I'm not going to rush it to save civilians and risk my troops' lives, actually. Screw that.
Small number of scrolls, but these ones were remarkably whole. They were carefully wrapped and clearly treasured. Cave 4, for example, founded just a few years later, just actually a short walk from the main ruins.
Oh my.
Entirely. Something like 15,000 fragments, pulled from more than 500 separate manuscripts, most of it that's still in pieces, and all of it survived because of where it happened to be sitting. The Dead Sea region is one of the driest places on Earth, and that dryness is exactly what let leather and papyrus, which is materials that rot away almost everywhere else within a few centuries, are able to sit folded inside clay jars for 2,000 years without disintegrating completely.
Okay.
But the single most important piece to come out of any of this is the
Okay,
Great Isaiah
sure.
Scroll, found in that very first cave that the shepherds stumbled into. It's the largest and the best preserved of all of the biblical scrolls, and it's nearly complete. All 66 chapters of Isaiah
People are gonna get
dated to
massacred.
around 125 BC. And before this scroll turned up, the oldest Hebrew manuscripts of Isaiah that anyone had access to dated to around 900 AD, 1,000 years after. And they were copied by medieval scribes working from the Masoretic tradition. Literally 1,000-year gap between the earliest texts that scholars had in this one. So then the real question, once the scroll got compared line by line against that thousands of years
Resistance
later
fighters
medieval
putting in
text,
work.
was simple. How much of it, or how much of the Bible had actually drifted across a millennium of hand copying? Well, as it turns out, barely at all. The two texts match overwhelmingly word for word in a way that gives serious direct evidence that Jewish scribes were copying scripture with remarkable accuracy across all the generations, long before anyone had a reason to think that anyone was checking their work. But where do they differ? Because there are variations. It's mostly spelling and the occasional missing word, but nothing that completely changes the meaning of a single passage. So 1,000 years of copying by hand in the text was more or less the exact same. That is no small finding. That is proof that the Bible you're reading in a modern Bible traces back through an unbroken chain to the originals. But there's one more scroll worth knowing about because it says something about how the community actually saw itself. The longest scroll ever found at Qumran, which is over 8 meters.
That's good that he landed that shot on there. Now just a quick nade from my
and it's an entirely
sniper. Features him
rewritten
off.
version of the law around sacrifice, purity, and the temple itself, which is not a copy of anything that already
3 to
existed,
5 on
but it was
slash
laid out
versus
as a blueprint for
4 to
how
6 on
all of
gun.
it should actually work, written in first person as God speaking directly, the exact same way that Moses received the law in Exodus.
On the move.
This community believed the Jerusalem priesthood had got a lot more wrong than
Okay.
just the calendar.
88% chance shot, and then he also has to roll a 5 order. Okay, phew.
Running through the actual temple, detailed enough to fill the longest scroll that they left behind. Alongside it sits the Hodayot, the Thanksgiving hymns, deeply personal prayers, some of them probably written by the teacher of righteousness himself, thanking God for handing over the exact.
Oh my God, I forgot about them.
That the Pesher method assumes only their community ever had access to. But every other scroll out of these caves is leather or papyrus, but one of them isn't, and it's maybe the strangest object in the entire collection. Found in cave number 3, the copper scroll is exactly what it sounds like. It was text that was hammered into thin sheets of copper instead of written in ink, which meant that by the time anyone found it, it had corroded into a solid, unreadable cylinder. Nobody could just unroll
84%
it. It
chance.
cut into
Please land your
strips at a
attack.
lab in England before anyone could read a word of it. And what was actually written inside was a list. It was 64 locations described in a way that you would use for a
you're
map,
dead.
each one supposedly holding a stash of gold, silver, and temple vessels.
That Civ has
adding up to, by
moves.
some estimates, to an
Or
amount
maybe
of
the Advent
treasure
Trooper
that doesn't
gave
even
pause.
make sense for a small desert community. to have
Oh,
access
wait.
to.
Okay, never mind. I thought he
Both
dodged
in a
again. No, he was
system that
sniping
is
some
in
guy in the
courtyard
back.
Under the steps.
I'm curious as to what this faceless is going to do,
600
actually.
silver talents, which is really fascinating because every other document that this community had left behind about the end
I've
of the
gambled
world
that he
or
will
about
go
the
after
future
civilians.
community. And then there's just like
I
this
have
one
lost that
scroll
game.
that's a really detailed treasure map, and somehow that's the one that was written with metal on it so that it
Whew.
would survive. Now, no one's ever found the treasures.
Gambling is going crazy right now.
Some scholars think it's real, that this is like an actual, idea of Jerusalem temple wealth hidden right before the city fell in 70 AD, stashed by people who fully expected to come back for it once things settled down a little bit. Others think that it was symbolic, that it never corresponded to real gold in the ground at all. Either way, whoever engraved that list into copper instead of writing it, on leather like everything else, clearly wanted it to survive something that the rest of the collection wasn't expected to survive. Which, if it really is treasure, means somewhere out in that desert, exactly where the list says, there might be a silver temple sitting under 2,000 years of dust, just
You had him
waiting on
flanked and
directions that
missed.
nobody's been able to fully make sense of. Maybe. I don't know. Hopefully someone can find it. Actually, you know what? One of you, go find it, and then, we can split it 50-50 just because I told you. Anyways, Cave 11, one of the later finds, produced its own strange little wrinkle in the biblical materials.
85%.
It's the Psalm scroll that contains most of the Psalms that you would recognize from a modern Bible. But the order is
I
actually
trust him.
scrambled compared to the version that made it into canon. And mixed
Okay.
among them are several Psalms
And
that
you're
never
free to
made
take
it
your-
into the Bible at all. Extra compositions, including one attributed
Oh,
to David. that
you
isn't
missed
in
an
the book of
86%,
Psalms
you
today.
worthless
If you see my video on Satan's
loser.
Temple of Jesus, for that whole conundrum, I talk about it a little bit there.
Why would you
like
do
the,
that?
The Psalms grouped in with Psalm 91, but it doesn't prove this community had a bigger, different Bible than everyone else. Scholars are still split on whether this scroll represents an alternate authoritative collection or just, a group of liturgical books for this community's own use, and the Psalms were grouped for how they were sung rather than how they would eventually be canonized. But the drama around these scrolls didn't stay in the ancient world. For almost 40 years after the major caves were emptied, there was actually a small, closed circle of scholars that controlled access to a huge portion of the unpublished material, especially the thousands of fragments out of Cave 4. And researchers outside that circle had no real way to see any of it. That finally broke in 1991 when two scholars used a old concordance, essentially, an index of word fragments that had existed since the 1950s, without most people knowing it was out there, to reconstruct entire unpublished texts on a computer, piecing them together like a puzzle built entirely from an index. A research library holding a full set of photographs of its scrolls opened its archive to the public around the same time, and for the first time, scholars outside that original small circle could actually read what had been sitting locked away the whole time. But if that's not interesting enough, there's one more interesting thing that I want to cover, and it is rather debated, but interesting nonetheless. John the Baptist actually shows up in the same exact region around the same general era, living the same kind of ascetic, wilderness-focused life that this community was known for. And when he explains what he's doing out there, he uses the same verse that the Qumran community used to justify their own retreat into the desert in the first place. Isaiah 40 verse 3, a voice crying out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord.
Promoting?
There's more overlap than just that shared verse too. Both of them, the Qumran and John the Baptist,
I'm going with Shredder now instead of blast padding because I
same
realize
ritual washing tied to repentance and moral
the
change,
error of my ways.
not just physical cleanliness. Both operated with a sense
Nice.
that time was short,
That went really well.
whatever was coming soon, and that the ordinary religious establishment running things out of Jerusalem wasn't going to be the one to meet it when it arrived. And both drew people out of ordinary daily life and into the
Oh,
wilderness
I gotta use the bathroom.
to
I'll be
get
right
ready
back.
for it. That's enough overlap that keeps, questions coming up. Was John the Baptist actually
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back. Today we're looking at the fear of big things. Ooh. Or rather, we're going to look at big things that could cause fear if you had this phobia, which is the fear of big
Time to
things.
go finish
I personally
making
do not have this
contact.
phobia, but I think it produces some of the coolest videos ever. We just get to see cool things, we get to usually learn a couple things along the way, and sometimes some of them are even terrifying to someone like me, and possibly you, that doesn't even have this phobia.
Yeah,
but
I
just
know,
wants
I
to see
popped
things
off
that are
that.
bigger than they should be. Whether it's man-made or just something huge in nature.
Oh,
it's
that's
all
actually
pretty
really
crazy to
good.
look at. So
But I
let's
know
jump into
capture
it,
is not
shall we?
good.
This first one is not man-made. This is actually a giant guy.
Either of those are honestly fine.
Holy loud. Giant marionette from a French theater company. I don't know why he's dressed like Obi-Wan. Holy cow, dude. So scary. Dude, why is he looking straight at me? What are the chances of that? Unless they like planned that with this specific cameraman, but that's so creepy. it's you know, it's like kind of creepy seeing a big person walking around like that, just like 100 feet tall or something. Really impressive, of course, too.
I don't need
expect it to
between
just
the eyes
make
right now.
eye
Later
contact
on,
with
that will
me
be super useful.
in the middle of the video. And
Rescue
kind of like a
Mox.
disappointed look too. Like it's like, are you judging my outfit? Yeah, I like dressing like Obi-Wan Kenobi. What of it? Yeah, pretty cool. Really impressive. But this isn't even the biggest thing we're gonna see today. This is just a big guy. Which, granted, it being a big guy kind of combos with like Uncanny Valley and just
9
like
more
oddly
days.
terrifying. So
And
it's
then by then,
perfect for
Elena
this
will be
channel.
ready.
In the grand scheme of things, it ain't even that big. But I'm pretty sure
I'll
I
finish
would be
making contact
uncomfortable if
first.
I was there and he also looked straight at me for some reason. A huge cave.
Boom.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, we get to see the RP.
Wow. Okay. I felt like right here, I thought like this was like a model. I don't know what I was thinking. My brain kept filling in the blanks of things that were anything but what they said it was gonna be. These are people. Dude. And like a little stable of some kind. Little walkways. Dude, give me the zoom out again.
Nice. And then this is where I reveal the chosen, and then I get screwed.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, if this was Minecraft,
Oh my God,
house
it
is
really-
going
it
right
really
there,
is.
dude. Holy moly, what a spot. Imagine the echo in there. You're basically inside
That's
of a
why I wanted to
giant
do Mexico. I'm like, I knew. Okay, it's just the Warlock, Soul Butcher.
That's a sign right there. Even this starting area is huge. Like, this is a sign. Like, so much distance is covered with this zoom. Like, right here, I'm not thinking these are people. I'm trying to figure out, like, how this is, like, actually a river, and this is actually a giant structure. Like, right here, it genuinely looks just like a play set. Looks like toys. Looks like action figures. Like a clay model, almost. It's not until you see the people moving that you're like, oh my gosh. Dang, my little pea brain can't handle this. That's crazy. Those are people right there, dude, in the cave. I'll bet you anything that this is in China. China, boom. Even the like.
Oh, I didn't hit
nature
confirm
is
action.
giant. Like,
Oh my
I
God.
always make the joke that these megalophobia videos are like half just looking at giant things in China, like bridges and buildings and whatever else. But this is just a cave, but it's still in China. How is everything just giant there?
Thankfully, I
In the
didn't
nature.
do too
Giant
many
Winnie
without
the
it.
Pooh invades
Okay, sure,
traffic.
yeah. Congrats. I don't know how you're getting so much information on me already, but whatever.
Oh man, it lands.
Okay, yeah, you're
perfect for the
telling me
camera,
about
dude.
the
That's so
project
funny.
of the avatars. Cool story,
And
bro.
also, the people that had it the worst is probably the people. in
Grouped
this
assault
car,
rifles
because
is next
it's too
level.
close for you to even know what it was. Just suddenly, your entire car got covered with
Oh,
red.
you're
with
inspired?
some
Yeah, then
yellow.
take care of
The
it real
last
quick
thing you're
then.
thinking is it's Winnie the Pooh, unless you checked your mirrors right beforehand. I guess maybe you could see it coming, but. If you're just driving and suddenly a red sheet goes over the top of your car and everyone stops, what just happened? Specifically to me. And I don't think a giant inflatable Winnie the Pooh would be in the top 10 of my possibilities. You know what he was doing. That was like a little prank. That's so funny. Kind of best case scenario too. Like no one crashed, no one got hurt. I'm sure people had a.
Alright, time to review
fright,
targets.
but, you
So
know,
I can
something
either
to laugh
stop
about.
the
I'm glad someone
faceless.
got this on video too. You'll never believe what happened on the way home from work today. A
Or,
giant
you know
Winnie
what,
the
let's
Pooh
do that.
landed
Let's-
on my car.
I don't really mind the
It's like,
faceless,
sure,
and then I get a
dude,
scientist,
sure,
unless this is
tell
an
me
engine.
you didn't
No,
want
it's
to
just
come in,
supplies.
right?
Yep,
Just be
definitely gonna
honest.
go for the
Can you do that?
scientist.
The biggest movie screen in the world.
Special planning and preparation.
60-inch.
It looks like conditions on the ground are ripe for a quiet operation. If we can get our people into place, they should each have concealed positions to work with.
Oh, dude. No. Don't do it. Oh, gosh. Oh, dude. Oh, man. I would lose my dang mind right here. Yeah, you could, but please don't. Don't. I want to go home after
Okay.
this. I heard there was a big screen.
It's a
in town
transmitter
playing big
sabotage.
movies. I didn't think you were gonna throw a plane at me. Really cool though. To illustrate it like this. That's crazy that the room gets dark too. Simulating the death that you all just experienced and are now in complete darkness after getting hit by a plane. That's immersive. That is pretty crazy though. 60-inch TV is this little tiny square. Does put it in perspective, dude. That's a big screen. But you know what I always say about big screens? It's only big if you sit close up. And likewise, small screens are only small if you sit far away. If you sit this close to a 60-inch TV, it's actually bigger than this. And anyone can do that. Like, there's a theater in my town that one of the theaters is like really long. And so like the rows are like 5 people.
I think I'm gonna need to just DPS blitz this shit. I really don't know what else to do. And I don't want us to use Elena because I need her to get mocks with no problem.
You guys understand that like the screen is big, but it's also really far away, so
I mean,
this doesn't really
okay, hold
matter
on.
anymore. I get like the sound and the movie isn't out yet or whatever, but am I crazy for thinking that every time? I'm like,
Well, I
have
have
to
this
sit
when I can
close
just
enough
equip
for it to matter,
this.
but then it
Now
anyway,
you're
we'll move on.
effective
It
and you're doing the
doesn't
same
matter.
range
The
from
size of the screen,
same
it
damage
matters
from me.
your positioning to the
If I
screen.
could, I would
It's-
just have them
both
use it
matter,
too.
But the positioning is equally as important. It's like, yeah, that's a tiny 60-inch TV, but I'm not gonna sit half a mile away from it. It's actually quite big.
Okay.
I'm actually pretty happy with it. Did I take this personally?
Alright, this
I
should
think
go.
mine's not even 60
I
inches.
could
I think it's smaller.
I
than
can't
that. I
do
didn't
this.
take this video personally, all right? He didn't roast my TV and make
I
me
don't
feel
know.
bad. My TV is actually not even 60 inches. I think it's smaller than that. But this guy was kind of rude about it. Here we go. Okay, this is an optical illusion. It's called a superior mirage. I can't explain how this happens, but it's something to do with light bending and boats appearing like they're flying. Super funny. This is actually just nature's comedy gold. Truly. Look how funny this picture looks. Just 3 cruise ships just like floating around out there. Like these things are obviously massive. We know how big cruise ships are, and they're just like flying by like a
Oh, and
flock
I
of
have.
birds,
Okay, no,
and
this will be
it's
fine.
not like an effect, it's just like a thing.
This
that
is the one
happens.
with
Just a
power
mirage.
relays on it.
So funny. This one, hilarious, dude. So funny. Imagine being here in person though, and imagine like having never heard of this phenomenon or having never seen it before or not knowing how it works or any of those things, and just being like, I think I need to go lie down. I'm pretty sure those boats aren't flying, but they really, really look like they are. But they can't be, so there's something wrong with me.
Alright, it's pretty
This has
far.
gotta be how, like, the Flying Dutchman, or, like, just, like, ghost ships, or, like, I don't know, any of those little tales from back in the seafaring days, whatever. Imagine you're just a guy with, like, a flintlock pistol chilling on a beach somewhere, and then a ship, like, flies by like this, like, as the sun sets. And you're like, yeah, that was 100% for sure a ship full of a ghost crew of, like, skeleton people. I'm gonna go tell everyone about that. And I can't even blame them. I would have thought the same thing. Driving past a 90-ton rocket on the freeway. That doesn't look that big. Gosh. There's gotta be a better way than the freeway, dude. You could just use the freeway for this? That's the road that I drive on. Oh my gosh. Wow. Could you not have built it closer to where you were gonna need it to be? Sorry, I'm talking crazy talk. I know, it's not that simple. That reveal is crazy. Like, I knew it was gonna be huge, obviously, because of course, but jeez, man. Just seeing that on your commute is crazy. Like, yeah, I saw a rocket on the way here. What did you guys see? I saw a big Winnie the Pooh. Not as cool, buddy. That's crazy. We've seen videos like this before where they're transporting, like, those windmill, like, or parts, like propellers of the windmills, just rockets, big ships and stuff. Like, we see stuff like this a lot, and I'm always flabbergasted by the fact that they just use the freeway. But I don't know what the other option is, of course. It's not like there's another road that's, like, not being used. Just use the giant object road that we have for this purpose. Like, of course they're gonna use the freeway because they have to, but I'm like, you can't just do that. You can't just drive a rocket down the freeway. You can't do that. Oh man, I feel like I've seen this picture before, but dude, I mean, this is scary enough just as is without digging into it at all, like without using our imaginations, which we're about to do. But yeah, huge submarine in the same water as you, freaky. Look how big that is. Because you know it's way out there. You can tell it's really far out there. This thing is humongous. Like, these are probably people on top right there. That's insane. Now imagine with me, if you dare, close your eyes. You don't actually have to. That'd be weird. You're out there in the water, like you swam pretty far out, and no one told you it was submarine day, and the submarine's under the water, and you feel like kind of a rumbling. You know, like the water's just kind of like buzzing. So you poke your head under the water, and it's still a little ways away, so you can't make out what it is. But all you can tell is that there's a giant, I don't even know what to call this size, just colossal, just dark shape in the water. That's clearly the source of the vibration you're feeling. Just its movement is like shaking the water that you're in.
Quiet, Central. I don't need you right now.
Water, this would never happen, but you're in the water and the submarine's like below you and coming up to surface. And so you look down, you see the big shape, and you see it coming up. And then eventually, like, it hits you. Last time I used my imagination, that was terrifying. Why did we do that? A city from space, dude. It looks like mold or dry skin. It looks gross.
86% chance shot.
Like
if you miss this,
how beautiful everything
I'm dead.
Else is, like green mountain range, and there's just like this gray, dry, lifeless, crusty bit here. Humanity's crusty. But you know what? There's probably a bunch of really great people that live here. You win some, you lose some. Biggest ship elevator in the world. The Three Gorges Dam ship lift. Huh? Biggest ship elevator in the world? Is there more than one? Are there a lot of ship elevators in this world that we all live in? This is crazy. It's hard for me to tell how big these boats are, but I'm assuming, like, the shape of them, they look like cargo ships. And it specifically says ships, not boats. So, like, these are big boys. How do you do that? And also, what a specific problem that this is the solution. Obviously, this is worth them inventing and building a ship elevator for giant cargo ships and barges. But I'm like, did you need the boats to get up there so bad? Was there not like a different way, or like maybe you just take the cargo and the cargo goes up the elevator and then goes on like a train to where it needs to go? I'm not saying this is useless. I'm saying that I would love to know the whole story of why this was the solution. I'd love to know the problem that they had, that this was the solution, because I can only think of solutions that were easier than this, but I don't know what the problem was, so I can't say that would actually work. So I mean, holy smokes, dude. What a ingenious thing to do, I guess, if this is what you needed to happen. To be like, what if we just build an elevator for the ships? There's something so strange about seeing like a boat on this little strip of water, like this little log flume ride, but it's actually like a humongous ship that holds like thousands of tons of cargo, probably. Absurd, but really cool. Like, this is blowing my mind more than everything else we've seen today. It's not even like the biggest thing we've seen today. It's just amusing to think of a boat elevator, a ship elevator. I mean, heck, a car elevator would make me chuckle, because that's just funny, and those exist, I'm sure. Ship elevator, wow. Airplane elevator, don't even get me started on that one. Those things.
Oh, there you go. There is a spot where I can hit both. Okay.
Elevator. But I'll bet that exists too. A house elevator would be one step too far, though. Those things don't need to go anywhere. Iceberg passing by house in Greenland. Oh, I love these. Kind of freaky to think about. Just like this much ice just floating by your house. I'm sure it just looks closer than it actually is to the house. I'm sure it's like a perspective thing. But the fact that this can happen, like, there's a place called like Iceberg Alley, I think. I don't know if this is it, but there's just like, it's like a seasonal thing. They just like, hey, there's the icebergs. It's just like a seasonal thing, or like it happens periodically where just like huge icebergs like this just like float by the island, or, you know, by the neighborhood or whatever. And they're just like, hey, that's a big one. It's like watching the clouds go by as a kid, but it's icebergs. You know, they're just like, oh, that one looks like a cat. It's so bizarre to me, a guy who the biggest ice I see is in my freezer. Oh, I could use an iceberg like this right now, though. Tell you what, it's probably extremely dangerous, but I want to like sled down this. Not like, it's probably pretty dangerous. Like, you can't and shouldn't, you would die. But that looks like a sweet sledding hill, doesn't it? You'd go so fast because it's actually just ice. Wow. But yeah, what a crazy thing to just be in your house and look out your window and it's just a wall of
Please
ice.
resurrect the body
Crazy.
and don't try and
Giant
mind
statue
control.
of Shiva. Ooh, this is kind of freaky. Ooh, this is kind of crazy, dude. What the heck? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Dude.
Yeah, this game is so fucking dog shit.
This
It
is
doesn't
sick.
make sense. It's so bad of a game. I don't
The
understand.
lighting is part of the show. That's awesome. Not on purpose, but like the lighting is doing its thing. And the moon? Paid actor. Dude, the first bit, I was like, this is kind of creepy because these look like eyes to me. And I was like, kind of picturing like something more frightening than what we got. I was picturing like a Cthulhu type creature. I don't know
Like,
why.
I
It says
actually
Statue
can't
of
believe
Shiva, so I
how
don't know why. But
garbage
these
this
look
game
so much like
is.
eyes that I was like, this is actually kind of freaky. Really cool, dude. Holy cow. Can we get it right? Looks like it's pretty far away, so even bigger than you'd think, but so cool. Definitely, I mean, without the cheerful music, I think this could actually have been a scary thing. Like, if this was like, if they played scary music, put some like scary effects on it, this could actually be a terrifying experience. This is like those visuals behind like DJs or like what, at like a rave or something, when they have like the huge face like just going nuts to make you have a panic attack. That's kind of like this, but this is just like the good ending. Like, it's actually just like a cool statue with some cool lights. Passing an indoor ski resort on the highway in Shenzhen. No way. Indoor ski resort in China? What are we doing, man? Holy crap. These just look like apartments right here, like futuristic apartments. This is like 20 stories of floors right here. And then there's like a ski resort above that? I don't know, man. That's a little on the too crazy side. Do you need a ski resort indoors? Just because you can, does it mean you should? Also, I mean, this is elitist of me because I grew up like snowboarding on mountains. I lived somewhere with a lot of mountains, but like going down the same hill over and over again, that sounds like it sucks. Also, like, it's probably not very good snow, and then you gotta ride the ski lift. Is there a ski lift, or do you just like take an elevator or something? I don't know, man. Would doing this remove all the funnest parts of skiing and snowboarding? I actually would love to do this. Like, I'm so curious. What an insane concept of skiing indoor to snowboard. Actually crazy. Only in China could you have an indoor skiing resort. Tourists flee as Mount Etna erupts. Oh, dude, I think we saw a different perspective of this video already. I think last Megalophobia video we saw... Okay, turn around. Let's see the smoke. Oh, maybe it's a different one. I'm not sure. Maybe this happens a lot. I don't know. Jeez, dude. Wow. Dude, what a crazy guy's just running. Like, everyone running, obviously. And then this monstrous cloud coming out of a volcano, mind you. Terrifying, but so cool also. Like, if you, I probably said this last time, but if you were like out traveling or whatever, or like, you know, hiking the volcano, this is like best case scenario, as long as no one gets hurt. Not only do you get to go see the volcano, but then you get to see it erupt, or like, you know, at least spew a bunch of crap into the air. You get these insane videos. Dude, you remember
Yeah,
this
it was
for the rest
right,
of
by
your
the
life.
way.
Whereas if
It was
this didn't
September
happen, you just
9th.
have a bunch of pictures of like a
That
mouth, you know,
1.0
maybe,
Valheim
some
comes
cool
out.
rocks or whatever, and like, you know, a cool story. But this is like, if I could guarantee that this would happen and no one would get hurt, it was just like a cool experience, I would prefer this.
So why do I
would
play
probably be
this
scared
XCOM
in the
2
moment,
game?
But if I knew it was gonna be okay, I would want this to happen. What a cool thing.
It's 'cause I hate
it's not like
myself.
stupid of me to say. I clarified that no one gets hurt, right? Dude, imagine getting to be there.
No,
What
it's
an
'cause I hate
insane
myself.
thing. Yeah, everyone is panicking though, and I think for good reason. What a
Like, why else would I subject myself to this garbage, RNG-based, no-skill fucking dog shit, man? Like, it's insane.
Outside of the city of Jakarta, Indonesia. Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
It feels good when it hits.
Not really. It doesn't.
Oh man.
It doesn't feel good when it hits, because it's just luck. It's like, oh, okay, my soldiers landed their 90+% shots. Wow. Like, that does...
This is not one that you want to be on when it erupts.
The aliens need to
Oh,
know
and
that
they're just
Or even, like, in the 80s.
melting it up at the top, or like passing it off at the top. I didn't really think about what the...
But that's not even the issue. Like, I've come to terms with soldiers missing 90% shots, but it's like, on conceal missions, where you're trying to, like, maybe avoid enemies or not engage them at a certain time, they just, there's no set pathing to their patrol paths. The game suddenly knows where you are, even when you're concealed, and then they start coming towards you, is what it feels like, and it's just like,
I'm like, dude, you could drown in garbage. What that's gotta be one of the worst ways to go.
I don't know, man.
Drowning is like one of the worst ways to go, as is. Drowning in garbage.
Pisses me off.
Time to be alive, huh? The garbage era. That one hits a little different. This isn't just like, whoa, it's so big and scary. It's like, this is depressing. Let's move on. Oh, great, it's China again. A train station in China with extremely loud music.
Also, I wish you guys weren't so anti-Pow World. It's honestly better than Valheim, but
I mean, it's China, so it's probably real.
I don't think it is.
Jeez Louise.
I don't want to manage Pokemon.
what do you mean manage?
Sci-fi movie.
Use them.
Time, throw some neon, whatever.
You-
this and that. You're in like an alien world.
You just
so
have one
I
out.
feel like I have to go to China eventually just to like, I don't
But
know,
I'm not a
just
Viking.
see it for myself and just be like, what the heck?
You could be a
man? This is
Viking.
AI.
There's nothing stopping
This
you.
is real. Like, I'm not like, oh, I
You
really
could
wanna go to
equip
China
your
'cause it seems
melee
awesome.
weapons and just go in.
It's a bad place. It seems cool, but I think I would.
And then you just have a pal also going in.
The whole time, I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, I want to go.
I don't know, I thought you guys, liked Pokemon and shit, but maybe not.
They have whatever the heck. This is just for the sheer amusement of the comical size of everything. Just it's
Dude, that's like the
overkill.
worst
It's
attempt
so
at reverse
overkill,
psychology
but I
I've
want
ever
to
heard.
see it for myself, just to know that it's real. I guess. Voters capture erupting Mount Stromboli.
Well, good attempts don't do anything, but it's like when I was a kid, this is what I would expect Pokemon games to be like in the future instead of what
No, actually though, they're not going fast at all.
Game Freak puts out now.
Jeez.
Game Freak puts out games.
Yeah,
Ooh, I don't know. Seeing this from the
in
water
quotation
is
marks.
different.
Oh no.
This is like
Fuck.
creeping me out more. Maybe just because this one looks bigger.
I fell off
there's,
the
like,
ledge.
No barriers between it and them. They're definitely safe distance from.
See
like,
you
it's not
next
moving
fall.
Towards them that fast. This
Oh.
first shot, I'm like, oh my gosh, it is a hand of death coming to grab you. You guys got.
I mean, I am just upset right now
That's crazy.
at this
Hopefully
game.
do be erupting, man. This feels like a little bit cheating because it's like smoke and ash.
I
It's
found
not
out.
like actually a big object, but it still counts, right, guys? Those with the phobia, does this still freak you out? 'Cause this, like, for some reason, this.
Did
gets more
Tommy ever
intense.
start
The fact that
or
this can
mention
engulf
thing?
you,
He was
and I
talking
can
about
just
doing
be in,
a
like,
carrot
thousands
earlier.
of feet in every direction of ash that I
Yeah,
can't
he
see.
said that he was probably just going to do it because there's not enough people signed up, right?
You know, if I'm near the
Oh,
volcano, I'm not
I don't
worried
know
about
because
me in my apartment.
there was like only 3 or 4 of us signed up, but then like Toll Druid and Shift Us and like one other person was like interested too.
Crazy lightning. We always love these.
So I don't know what's actually going on.
Gosh.
Sure.
He's doing like tickle hands. What the heck was that? Whoa! I've never seen lightning like this. What the heck, dude? Wow! And then it all ending in one big bolt just to show off. That first bit is like so strange. So cool. What the heck? I feel like in my experiences on this planet and through many a storm that has involved lightning, lightning has always just been like bzz, or like bzz, or like bzz, like that's it. Like it's cool. I like it. It's awesome. But I've never seen anything even close to some of these lightnings we see in these videos. This is not a shape I knew lightning could make. That one, it's an intense version of what I knew lightning could make, like, especially it being there for like a full couple seconds and fading out like a light bulb. That's nuts, dude. It looks like a bunch of freaky hands coming out to tickle you in the worst way. And then just a final laser beam from the sky. Oh man, dude, I love lightning. Lightning is so cool. It feels like it shouldn't be real, but alas. That's so cool. Such a cool shot too from this car, seeing it reflect off the car, and they're just like driving down the road. The video's definitely slowed down a lot, because obviously this wouldn't last this long. But dude, what a cool video, man. This is what I'm talking about. We see the craziest videos in these megalophobia videos. It's worth it every time. Oh boy, more China stuff. Bamboo fountains of Chengdu, I think it was. Chengdu. Holy moly, what are these even for? What even are these? There's people walking around with umbrellas. It just like creates an artificial rain. Man, they're just doing things because they can, not because they have like some necessity. I don't know what this would be for, but it looks cool. So that's something. I would like to go see this. Like, do they leave these things up and like maintain them, or are these just like built and then they make a bunch of cool videos about it? Like, look what we did, and then like they get shut down or like repurposed or something, or like they just break after like a year. Like I want to know the long term. Like, what does this look like in 10 years? Are they still keeping this running in 10 years? It looks awesome. All right, I can at least say that. This looks awesome. how big they are. Like, these are people down here. Wow, dude. Anyway, moving on. Ooh, Cologne Cathedral with the McDonald's.
Scanning. Moving to Overwatch.
Yeah, dude, there it is. I get to say the thing. I get to say it. You ready? I've been here. In fact, I was here just a couple years ago, and it was awesome. This thing is way bigger than you could ever imagine. Videos do not do it justice. And yes, there's a McDonald's. And no, I didn't go. I went and got schnitzel, bro. I'm not gonna get McDonald's when I'm in Germany. Are you kidding me? Super cool. Like, the amount of detail on everything is just insane. And they're, like, still working on it. I mean, they're just fixing it up. I guess they're not, like, adding to it. I don't think. Like, the doors, this is not like a great shot of the front of it, but again, like, however big you think this is, it's twice that big, or maybe even more. The front door, if you can even call it that, is like 200 feet tall. I mean, I don't actually know that, but it feels like that. Like, the people by the front door are like this, and the door's like huge. It's like a joke how big it is. I'm like, okay, we get it. We get it, all right? You built a big church. You can stop anytime. But it's so cool and so ominous, and it's surrounded by like pretty humble buildings. Like, it's like normal stores and things around it, and just like restaurants. Like, everything else is like pretty normal German structures. And there's like this giant 800-year-old or however old it is cathedral, castle, vampire or lord domain in the middle. It's borderline funny how big this is. Okay, last one. Giant submarine emerging from the ice. Ooh, wow.
Moving on target location.
Ooh. Why did the fast motion like jump scare me?
Get ready for a surprise.
Jeez. Time to whack the giant chunks of ice off the top. Jeez, dude. That's crazy to just be underneath the ice and then just be like, we're still going up, and just smash through it. Like, what does that feel like from within the submarine to just smash through the ice? That's so crazy. Maybe it feels like nothing because you're just like such an insanely heavy metal thing that the ice just means nothing. Probably that. So crazy. What a weird. I kind of wish they didn't do fast motion right here because that first shot is so cool. Boom. Wow. I also would love to have seen this same shot. Would have loved to seen this same shot from the side because I feel like the scale of how long it is like the more shocking thing. I would love to see it emerge from this angle.
Ready to engage.
Just like boom, you know. Let's do this. I'll take it. All right. It's not like you can be like, okay, go back down, and I'm gonna move over here and then do it again. That's crazy, man. Multiple submarine ones today. So it's not just videos from China. It's also submarines. So we got that going for us. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got for you. That was quite the journey, wasn't it? We saw a lot of big things. I hope you didn't get too scared from some of those big things. I do kind of wonder how many people watching these videos, like the megalophobia ones, have the phobia. I feel like it's usually just people being amused by the videos like me, but the megalophobia videos that I post usually perform pretty well. So I'm like, is it just people that are like me that just want to see big things and aren't scared of it? Or is it like more people than I think have this phobia? Let me know in the comments below if you have this phobia. Because I'm under the impression that the thalassophobia ones, like the fear of the ocean ones, I think the percentage of people that are like watching it along with me with the phobia is higher, because I think that's like in my experience as a person, that's a more common phobia. Anyway, I'm yapping. I'll let you go. You've been here a long time. I'm sure you got stuff to go do. I'm sure you got other videos of mine to go watch. I don't want to keep you much longer. So thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. And don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't yet. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Good luck on your big day.
Rolling.
I gotta go.
That's beside the point.
No, it doesn't look like a blanket at all.
No. If you go to catalog in the main menu, you'll see Martian UAP catalog. And this is the catalog that Mark Grice is maintaining for us. It's available as a PDF download. We had version 2 already.
Sweet.
And here it is, thanks to Mark. He puts all the data in. I create little thumbnails.
This game is so
there's the
garbage.
Gimbal UAP we're all familiar with.
He's going to land his shot. Spike through. Oh, no. Okay.
Then we get to the first part of the presentation, which is known camera artifacts or digital
You're choosing
processing
to
error.
attack him, and
And
you land the
these typically
shot.
show
Of
up
course.
over and over and over again in rover photographs in the same
Okay,
location
that was lucky on
as
my
each
part.
photograph. So it's either something wrong with the camera or a digital processing error that always occurs at that specific point in a photograph. So to the left, you can see conventional magnification, and then
No, if
the
he's going to land a
upscale
41%, you
thumbnail
can
to
land
the
a
right.
41%. Or not.
And these are known camera defects. There's a digital processing error where it makes these black blocks. That's an example of those. Then we get these that always seem to appear in the same spot in each photograph taken by that specific camera. So these are knowns. Then we get to cosmic ray bursts. The one there that looks like an orb could be a burst directly into the CCD, where the one to the top is more like going across the CCD. Am I right, Brian?
Jean, that top one there, the streak that looks like it's going down, was that the one that I provided you?
I know there was something like 28.
Neil, there's an
And then
auto
Mark
pickup gold
chose
option
one.
in the.
Okay, well, the
Wait,
cosmic
is there?
ray bursts
There is.
are a
Why it's not
pixel
enabled by
wide,
default?
so
I
it may
Okay.
look
Is it in the
thick
game?
here, but it's because it had to be magnified.
yeah, it's just in their
to
game.
get
It's
it
like right fucking
visible,
there.
essentially in
Yes.
a spreadsheet fashion.
What?
Yes, the one on the left.
Why would
is,
this ever be off?
I
magnified?
truthfully do not understand.
Wow,
See what I
that's
mean? So every time, that is the conventional
then the same.
explanation, and maybe now would be a good time to
Just land the shot and kill him. Oh my.
Wrapping up here.
Which
but, like,
camera
we-
version
No,
are
no,
you using?
Brian,
Go ahead.
can I just quickly?
What's
Can
that?
I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
quick,
go ahead.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Camera version?
I'm also itching
Whatever
to
the
get
default
to
is.
Gonna
that
complete this mission and then it's
I
sit-ups
just
had
saw
time.
cameras
another
used for the most
digital
part.
processing.
There was one that was like immersive that
artifact.
kept it really close to you.
You get these black blocks.
I
with
feel like
this,
it's immersive.
Sort of
Like it
snowish,
feels quite close to me, but maybe I'm
like
wrong.
old TV CRT.
There was two. The one was almost
with
too
no
close
signal,
for me. It was
that
like almost
blurry
like
pattern.
it was like you were like
And
the
then we get
shoulders
to
were like the
those
frame.
that we classify as actual objects in the Martian sky. These appear randomly in different locations, in different cameras. Yeah, we're looking at the left navigation camera, right navigation camera, the hazard avoidance camera front, hazard avoidance camera back. So 4 cameras on the rover have captured these objects independently in the Martian sky. Yeah, I'm just going to briefly scroll through those. Many of these were in my presentation. And what's nice is when you download the PDF, you can click on these links and they'll open the original NASA page for you as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you can actually go in and see what was in that photograph.
All right.
Man.
Picked up this thing of this guy that was just kind of praying, just like transformed into something and like lunged at me.
Even now,
Sounds like a dick
our
move.
enemy lurks in the shadows, plotting to destroy all we have built, to return us to the chaos of the old world. Only together can we oppose them. United in the Elders' love for us, we shall prevail, no matter the cost.
Sorry, I was doing my push-ups.
He's killed.
Yeah, that trooper hit a unit 2 times in a row. That was a good distance away, behind cover, on high ground. But I've heard high ground doesn't matter, so.
If Star Wars taught me anything, that having the high ground is
Yeah, it
literally
matters the most.
No, okay, it matters a
Yeah.
lot when you're shooting, but for defense, you don't get a bonus.
Oh.
In the original XCOM, you got a bonus. I say original, but you know, XCOM. Yeah. It feels weird calling it XCOM 1 because it's not the first XCOM game. But
Just like it sounds. Serving as a.
so let me do. Are we carrier signing? I'll get on. I don't know.
I don't know. It says asking. I wasn't sure what's happening. I've been in shell.
That's fair. Maybe I can start WoW with this game open. Okay, not enough memory. Okay. All right. Oh, I can turn down the game settings before I launch it. Wait, can I? Okay. Hey, Nick. Are you there? Oh, wait, did my Discord die? I just tried to do the same thing again. So stupid. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, my shit crashed, but it's okay. Okay, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah. Nick, did you play Soul Nomad in the World Eaters?
No, I never played. I think I've heard of it.
Damn.
I've never played it.
Okay.
I hope the world doesn't get eaten.
It's a sick ass game, honestly. It's a strategy RPG made by Nippon Ichi.
That's
And
where
it
I know it from.
dude. Because it's like it has decisions that matter, and the new game plus mode is you going full like evil mode. It's fucking sick.
You have to like destroy those decisions.
Kind of, it's because it's like you help all the people and you're like kind of nice in the first time, and then next run through you're like murdering them in cold blood or like forcefully dominating them to fight for you and shit like that. It's pretty dank.
It does sound somewhat dank.
I was just wondering because this guy RPG, they did a collab and you can summon gigs. Pretty sick.